of Pro Billiards Tour Featurette with our special guest, Nick Varner.
Well, number one, I look to see what kind of shot I got at the first ball, see whether it's hard, difficult. A lot of times real early in the racks when it's toughest to get around the balls for position to run out. A lot of times the key's the first 2 or 3 balls. And then I look to see where the major problems, usually there's 1 or 2 problem areas to run a rack and iron ball that you have to get through, either tough shot, tough position shot, and I look to see where those are so I can plan for them, because usually once you get by those 1 or 2 problems, usually the rest of the rack, if you speed control, if you stay in line, usually it's fairly easy. But so I look right away to make a plan for all 9 balls, what I'm going to do with them. Now, sometime, depending on where the cue ball falls, if I don't quite fall where I want, I have to change the pocket I'm going to play the ball in, or I have to change and go position a different route. And you sometimes have to adjust. I'm not saying that your plan works out perfect all the way through 9 balls, but sometimes you have to make a change in your game plan as you're moving along. But I first look to see if I got a good shot, and then I look to see where the problems are in the rack.
I noticed when watching a lot of the pros where a semi-amateur might look at a combination shot that looked a little bit difficult when they have the option to shoot a more simple straight-in shot. They'll try for that combo to get that 9 ball. What's your philosophy on that?
Well, the only time I like to shoot a combination on the rack is when I know I can make it about 95 out of 100 times. If it's like a higher risk shot, like where I might make it half the time, unless the balls are really tied up. If the balls are wide open, I usually go for the run out unless it's really an easy combination.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about 9 ball. Now let's look at, you mentioned straight pool was the game you really started cutting your teeth on once you got into it. What's the difference between the strategy on a 9 ball and straight pool?
Well, I think one of the major differences is in straight pool, you can shoot at any ball on the table, number one. So a lot of times you have to pick which one you're going to shoot. And speed control, basically straight pool, you play it on half the table, again, a little bit like one pocket, and it's a half table game, so the cue ball is not going real far for position. You know, where 9 ball, you're liable to you go 3 rails a lot for position, and the cue ball travels a lot more. Straight pool, usually it's moving a foot or 2 foot between balls, and one of the real keys to straight pool is picking the right pattern of balls to play.
Sort of like connect the dots.
Right.
How do you see it when you first look? I mean, is it a natural instinct to know? Do you plan as many balls ahead?
You play it a little bit more in stages. Where 9 ball, you see the whole table. Straight pool, number one, you got to get them all broken up. That's the first critical problem, is get them all broke up. Once they're all apart, then you pick out which ball you're going to save for the break shot for your next shot. And then you kind of work backwards with your thinking from the break ball. And the last 4 or 5 balls are real critical, the order that you play those in order to come up with that break shot, which allows you to go from rack to rack to rack. And that's the game where people talk about their high runs, like run 150 balls and out. And that's the game that gets the high runs.
I remember you ran 135 of me one time. Where do you look for the break shot to be? Righty versus lefty, etc.?
Well, I'm right-handed, so I try to save it on the left hand of the rack. When I save it on the right side of the rack, then sometime if the cue ball and that ball in their position, I have a hard time reaching that ball. So right-handers usually prefer saving their break ball on the left side of the rack, and left-handers they prefer saving it on the right-hand side of the rack.
One more game, 8 ball. Now, the philosophy there, obviously, the break is very important. What happens after that?
Yeah, it's real important, like 9 ball, the break shot, and then 8 ball, it's a little bit like a shortened version of straight pool. You run 8 and out, you win the game. You're 7 balls in the 8 ball. And where 8 ball is a really extremely difficult game is the first guy that decides to try to run out has really usually got his work cut out for him. But if he runs 4 or 5 balls and doesn't make it all the way, then usually he's kind of worked himself into a trap where he's made it much easier for his opponent to break and run out. So that critical decision of deciding to go ahead and try to run out, you hopeful they can make it all the way, because what you do is make it really easy for your opponent. Once you remove a lot of your balls, you remove the obstacles to run out, and you make it a lot easier for him. So that first decision of deciding whether to go for the run out or not, that's major, because if you're going to play any defensive strategies, usually it's right in the beginning. At the end, it gets pretty tough to play safe.